Well, welcome back. I'm glad to have you join me today as we answer yet another big Bible question. And while we try to learn something new every single time we gather together each week, we never want to lose sight of the biggest ideas of the Bible. And so we always start with these top 10 things. Let me read them to you. God is my maker and king. I am made in God's image. The Bible is God's message to me. I have broken God's commands. My sin earned forever death. I can never save myself. Jesus died to pay for my sins and rose from the dead. If I trust in Jesus to save me, I'll enjoy forever life in God's kingdom. Now, before we answer this week's big Bible question, let's look back at the one we answered last time. The question was, who made you and all things? Do you remember the answer? Let's say it together. God made me and all things. And the four things we needed to know to go with this question were, God created everything from nothing. God created by speaking. God expertly designed everything. And as our maker, God is in charge. Now, before we answer today's question, we're going to talk about tools. Now, I have a couple tools here. I'm going to show them to you, and I want you to think about what they're for. So, have you seen this before? What's this? It's a hammer, right? And what's a hammer for? Well, it's for hammering. You hammer in nails, all right? And it makes things a lot easier than trying to use a rock or even your hands. How about this guy? Let me show you. If you spin this thing here, it opens its mouth. It kind of, to me, looks like, like a monster with a big old mouth to eat things. Do you know what this is for? Well, this is a pipe wrench. You hook it on a big metal pipe, and then it's got these sharp kind of sticky teeth here, and it will grab on and allow you to turn a pipe. Now, finally, what do you think? These are, I don't know if you can see them all here. You know what these are? This tool is called hedge clippers, and it's not to cut your hair, although I don't have much hair to cut. It's to trim bushes outside. Well, all these tools make things way, way easier. If I had to knock in nails using my hands or a rock, I would just get injured, and I wouldn't be very successful. If I had to unclog a pipe and twist it with my hands, I would never get it apart. And if I had to cut our bushes outside with little pairs of scissors or just rip them off with my fingers, I would make a mess of our bushes. Now, when human beings make tools, we make them for a reason. There's a job to do. There's a purpose for all the things that we make. And you know what? When God made the world, when he made people and plants and pineapples and platypuses, he made all of these things for a reason too. And so today we're going to talk about what God's reason was for making everything. And that's what today's big Bible question is all about. And so I want to remind you before we begin, you can find a link in the description for a worksheet to print out, and you can follow along with me. There will be missing words for you to fill in and doodles to draw on your sheet. So today's big Bible question is this: why did God make you and all things? Why did God make you and all things? So if someone brought you a broom and they asked, why was this made? Well, you would be able to tell them the answer. You would say, well, it's for sweeping the floor. But what if they asked, well, why did God make the sun? Why did he make trees? Why did he make human beings? What would your answer be? Well, that's what we're going to figure out today. Let's read the answer together. For his own glory. For his own glory. And so fill in that missing word, glory, on your sheet. So, why did God make us in all things? For his own glory. Well, for this answer to make any sense, we first need to know what in the world glory means. Well, to give someone glory, let me get my face out of the way here. To give someone glory is to show how great and awesome you think they are. So, when Fans celebrate wildly after an amazing play in a game. They're giving glory to the players. When they cheer for a band at a concert, they're giving the musician glory. As we talk about today's big Bible answer, we're going to talk about what it means to give God glory. But we don't ever just want to take my word for it. We want to make sure that what I say matches up with what we read about in the Bible. So we're going to start reading from the Bible book of Psalms, and this is Psalm number 19. It says this, and let me get my face out of the way again here. The heavens tell about the glory of God. The skies show that his hands created them. So the heavens are everything above our planet, the skies and the sun and the moon and the stars and the planets and the galaxies. And what do the heavens tell about according to this verse? They tell about the glory of God. And that's the first thing you need to know about this big Bible question, is that nature was made to show God's glory. Nature was made to show God's glory. When you look around at all the amazing and beautiful things you see in nature, it should make you think, wow, God created, or the God who created all these things, he must be powerful, he must be creative, he must be wonderful, he must be glorious. All the things we see in our world around us just show us how glorious and great and awesome our God is. So I want you to think of some really huge things that show God's glory, how great and awesome he is. Well, some things that come to mind are things like the Grand Canyon, things like Niagara Falls, things like the sun, things like the planet Jupiter and the Andromeda Galaxy, these really huge things that make God look big and powerful and strong. But then there are some really tiny things that were created to show God's glory. There are some really interesting little critters and bugs that you can see. And then if you've ever looked through a microscope and looked at cells and looked inside our bodies and our skin, and you look at how things work in blood cells, all those things say, man, the God who created these things must be an expert designer. He must be really knowing what he's doing. He must be super intelligent to make all this stuff work together. But you know, stars and trees and skies and seas, they weren't the only things that God made. Listen to what Psalm 139 teaches us. It says this, "You put me together inside my mother's body. How you made me is amazing and wonderful. I praise you for that." So the person who wrote these words wasn't talking about mountains or stars or birds or oceans. What was he talking about? He was talking about human beings. And that's the second thing you need to know about today's big Bible question. And that's that people were made to show God's glory. People were made to show God's glory. Just like the high and mighty mountains, the sweet-smelling flowers, and wriggly and wiggly bugs were made to show God's glory, how great and awesome he is, human beings were made for the same purpose. Now, how do human beings show how great and awesome God is? Well, think about this. We're unlike anything else God made. We can think, and we can talk. We can write. We can create poems and stories and movies and songs. The Bible tells us that human beings were the very last thing God made. And as his last creation, we are special. The Bible tells us we're made in God's image. We're made to be like God in a way that anything else he made is not like him. And so we can do things that stars can't do, and hippos can't do, and rivers can't do. We can think deep thoughts. We can write and speak and make works of art. And as we'll learn in our next big Bible question, we'll learn that God made us special so that we can give him glory in a way that nothing else can. And that's by obeying his commands. So let's review what we learned today. Today's question was, why did God make you and all things? And the answer, for his own glory. So thank you for joining me today as we answered our second big Bible question. And we'll see you next week as we answer question number 3. Goodbye.